everyone, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. Join me in making this graduated crystal pendant. You can use different sizes and work with different versions of Rivolis to create this netting, starting with the 2-hole bar bead. So we're actually going to start with the bottom of the piece and work our way up. Now remember, you can do this pendant in any size. So I'm going to begin with a 14, and this is the Colorshift in the Sphinx color. And then I'm going to a 12 millimeter in the Crystal Vitrail, and then a 10 millimeter in the Magic Blue. And again, you can do it all with a 10, you can do all with a 12. If you want to, you can do just that one size for the drop. You can also change the connection points if you want them to sit closer together, and we'll go over that as we get into the design. So to begin, I have my bars here along with some 15 seed beads. Very simply, we're just going to use these two materials. I want to begin by using a 15 to separate out 4 bars, which are going to create the back of the piece. Keep in mind also, if you want to, you can do this just one high and basically skip from this bottom one to the top to see how to do the bail. Dropping those 4 beads down, I have about 5 feet of thread because I'm going to work with one piece of thread for the whole design. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot, which is going to bring those 4 bars with the 15 O's between into a circle. Once I have that done, I'm going to take my needle and thread and basically step up from that first hole or the interior hole of this grouping of my bars to the secondary or the exterior. Go through the 15 and the next bar, so you're getting away from the knot. And once you do so, then step up to that second hole of the bar. The only thing that's going to change going from a 14 to a 10 is the number of beads that we use to create our netting. The first one here, we are going to go in and we're going to do 11 beads, catching between each one of our second holes of our 2-hole bar. So 11 beads go on. And once you have those 11 beads on, you're going to sew into the second hole of the next bar in line. Again, 11 beads go on all the way around till you have 4 groupings of those 11 beads. Once you have your last grouping of 11 on, you're going to sew through that first bar that your thread was coming out of, and then also through the first 6 15 seed beads. Once you're through those first 6 beads, give a nice tight pull to make sure you don't have any extra thread showing. From here, we're going to circle around to all of these points here of this little flower basically, and now we're going to grab in 9 beads. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Once those 9 are on, you're going to go over to the next little petal of the flower, count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sew through the 6th bead in line, which is going to be kind of that odd count bead. Again, going around the loop here and adding in kind of that next layer. You're going to continue adding in 9 beads, and then once you have those 9 beads on, sew through the 6th bead in line right along the side. So 9 is our new number as we go around through that circle. As I add my last 9, I'm sewing through that same bead that my thread was coming out of to finish off that netting. You'll notice that it's starting to kind of cup now. Go ahead and slide your crystal in there so that way you can get kind of a nice tight pull and bring those sides up. They should kind of sit right along the side of that crystal. From here, we are going to do our last row of netting, which is going to be 5 beads. I want you to go ahead through these 9 beads and come out through the 5th bead in line. When you go through that 5th bead in line, that's going to bring us out again on that odd count number. Add 5 more 15s. Go over to the next grouping of 9, count over 1, 2, 3, 4. Go through that 5th bead there in line. Once you're through the 5th bead, add 5 more beads. So again, just like we've been doing, this netting gets pulled in and gets tightened with 5 beads to get that nice kind of diamond shape. adding 5 beads. You're going to go in, count over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sew through that 5th bead in line in that grouping of 9. And again, kind of give a nice tight pull to tighten up all that thread. 2 more times, we'll go through and add our groupings of 5. Again, through that 5th bead. And then 1 more. You can see I'm kind of pushing the Rivoli down because the thread, because it is netted and kind of around in a circle, it will want to pull, and that's why I'm kind of giving a nice tight pull after each one. 5 more go on. And then you're going to sew back through that original bead that your thread was coming out of. This is kind of your opportunity now to really tighten up the whole thing. Pull that netting in close towards the center of that pendant. There you have the center of the pendant, and now what we're going to do is we are going to go in and sew down along the design so we can get to one of our connection points. To get to the connection point, you're going to sew down through the next 4 beads in that grouping of 9, and then also through the bead that sits right at that connection of that netting. Sew down, continuing in that same line through the next 5 15s and out. Once you're out those 5 15s, you're also going to sew through that bar, going through that outer hole of the bar. Now, at this point, if you want to, again, you can kind of skip ahead in the video, you can slow it down, you can speed it up. You can actually go in and see how to make the actual bail when you're looking at it. So if you want to learn how to make the bail, you can do that at this point. And what I'm going to show you is how to do this connection point so that way it has a nice hang to it. If you want it to sit closer together on the design and you don't want it to nearly as much kind of have that separation, you can actually just connect it right to the next bar rather than adding one in between. To add the one in between, I'm going to add a 15, a bar, a 15, a bar, one more 15, let that all fall down next to the one you already have, and then sew back through that second hole of the first bar that I just added. There, I have that ready to go. Adding a 15, I'm going to sew through the bar from the piece that I already have finished that the thread's coming out of. And there's your connection point. Again, if you want to, you can eliminate the bar that sits vertically and the beads will be closer, the Rivolis will be closer together. From here, I'm going to sew up through the 15, the bar, the 15, tighten that thread, sew through the bar that your thread is or that your next crystal is going to be coming out of, and down to the base of the bar. There we go. Now we're on repeat mode. To be on repeat mode, what I mean is we're doing the exact same thing as the first one, so I'm not going to make you watch. However, because it is a smaller Rivoli and we're going into a 12 millimeter, the count on this bigger one was 11, 9, and then 5. On the 12 millimeter, we're going to do 9, 7, and 5. So 9 first, then 7 for your second netting, and the third netting is going to remain that 5. I'll join you then once we have the connection point and we're getting ready to add the smaller one to the top. So just to show so there's no confusion also at the start, when you are doing this and creating that first loop again, obviously this one bar that's there is already on the bar. You're going to add a 15, bar, 15, bar, 15, bar, 15, and that gets you right to that center area. Go ahead and step up and then continue with that 9, 7, 5 count. As you're putting in, and if you decide to go up to the 10, or again, stop anywhere you like, the count originally is 7. So we went from 11 to 9 to 7. And then the next count is 6. So I have the second set in here of 6. Now this is the only one that doesn't have an odd count. So what did I do? I'm going to sew through as I go in and add my last grouping of 5 to go in and add through or sew through 2 beads at a time. So rather than just 1 bead, as we did kind of catching on to that 5th and that 4th bead in the sections, this time I'm going to sew through beads 3 and 4 in the groupings of 6. So still I'm adding 5 at the top. And then as I add that 5, I'm going to go over to my next section here and sew through beads 3 and 4 in my grouping of 6 that I did for my second go round of my netting. Again, then 5 go on. And then after the 5, you go over to the next grouping of 6 and sew through 2 beads. So you're sewing through 3 and 4. After this one is complete, all I'm going to do then is need to make the bail. And I'll show you how we're going to do that with 2 additional bars. And you can do it in any fashion anyway. These are all just suggestions just to kind of show you how you can simply use the bars to start out and create these nettings around these different size Rivolis for a nice, really quick and simple look. So after this last one here, I'm going to sew in through 3 and 4 that I started with. And then as always, when I do the last kind of grouping of netting and that last beads in the netting, I'm going to kind of push that Rivoli down into place, give a nice tight pull so you don't see lots of extra thread. I'm going to sew up towards the top of the project, going through those 5 beads that I just added, as well as through these 2 on the right side. And basically this is just a fast way to the top. Through those 5 that I just added, as well as through the 2. Doing a nice tight pull. And then I'm going to go down on an angle through those 2 beads there, through that center connection. So just like we did when we're adding the connection points, instead what I'm doing here is getting to the top to add my bail. I'll go down here. And then step down from that bottom over to that same bar that sits at the top. When I'm out the bar that's at the top of the piece, I'm going to come out of the top and we're going to add 2 more bars to help make our bail. The bail is going to be determined by what size cording. In my example piece here, I put it on a chain. I thought it looked the most elegant. So 2 bars was plenty for that space. If you want to do a thicker cording or a bolo or an omega chain, you may need to add 3 bars. We're going to add these in a nice, simple right angle weave fashion, adding in 3 of our 15-0 seed beads, 1 of our bars, 3 more seed beads, and back through that first bar that the thread's coming out of. Pulling that nice and tight then, go up through the 3 beads along the side, through that bar, and then along the side of the bar so we don't see a lot of thread showing, and just so it kind of continues with that look, add 3 more 15s. So from the bottom hole to the top hole of that bar, 3 more 15s, back to the bottom hole, I'm going to flip it in my hand just so it's easier to hold, back up through those 3 beads that I just added on the first side, out through the bar. Now I'm going to repeat that 1 more time, adding in 3 seed beads, a bar, 3 seed beads, sewing back through the seed bead or the bar that my thread's coming out of, flipping it in my hand just so it's easier to hold, up through the 3 15s on the side, through the bar, decorating the side of the bar with 3 more 15s, from the bottom to the top, and then from the top down to the bottom. Once you're there, then it's time to get back to the top. So you're going to go up through this 3 seed beads along the right hand side here. And once you're through those, you're going to go through the bar. Now, if you needed it to be bigger, your bail to be larger, you would keep going and repeat that same fashion. What I'm going to do instead is add 3 of my seed beads, go down to that second hole of my bar. So remember, we went through the first hole. I'm going down through the second hole and sewing through to the other side. And now I'm going to go add 3 more 15s and sew back through the bar that my thread was originally coming out of. And that finishes us off. So that gets my bail right there to sit right along the back of the pendant. It gives a nice simple look to it, which kind of follows along with that edging. All I'm going to do now is sew back down through the seed beads. Sew through the bar. And then we're going to tie off the thread. I'll take it down a little bit further so I'm not right up next to the bail. So underneath a bridge thread, which is a thread that connects one bead to the other, make a loop and go in, sew through the loop once, sew through the loop twice, and that makes a nice sewer's knot. Give a nice tight pull, making sure that knot goes between beads. Sew down on the project so your thread end gets separated from the knot. And then go in with your burner and burn off the end. Remember also, you do have a starter thread because that starter thread is there originally from when you did that first original knot. So go ahead and burn that off and down towards the project. Burn this ending thread off, and that also gets burnt down towards the project and finishes off the design. So whether or not you want to go in, like I said, and do a couple different versions, you can do different colors, you can have 2 like this if you want. I made 2. It can actually look like earrings if you want to make a set of earrings. And then you can also do it in all the same size. So if you'd rather do all the same size and just do these 10 millimeters, you can do that as well. Again, you can change the spacing and the line in between. Also, just to show you, you could go in and make this into a super fancy necklace or into a nice bracelet as well, joining in the designs that way. As always, thanks so much for joining me in making this graduated crystal pendant. Remember, any size Rivoli will work and any drops will do. If you happen to do a smaller size or a bigger size, make sure to comment below and let us know exactly what the counts are to achieve that netted look. That way it helps those that are learning and actually making and kind of grows this beading community. As always, you can comment below, you can give a little thumbs up and like, as well as subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates when we do new designs, new tutorials, go live, and give you better beader episodes. As always, thanks so much for watching and enjoy your own graduated crystal pendant.